what do I want? What do I want my life to look like? Is that something that I do want in my life in some way, shape, or form? Because I was like, the reason I attached it to failure is because I was overusing it.
Many of them have said, like, I'm sorry for being a dick. I'm sorry I didn't get it. Like, I think eventually they'll come around, and if they don't, they don't. But it has more to do with them than it does with you.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 1116. Can you step into your greatness without being entitled? Today, for episode number 1117, we run from the things that remind us of our failures. Failures is in quotations because, as you know, we always talk about failing forward. Shout out to my sweatshirt, which I've been wearing for what seems like the last 3 weeks straight. It's getting its work on this podcast. So Alan and I, you heard the great tax debacle of 2022. We talked about that a little while ago, but we were talking about this yesterday for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but we were talking about this through line, and we said, you know what, this will be a good episode. Our CPA, the person who does our taxes, is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being. Awesome. Very supportive, very understanding sometimes of our jeffings, and just a good human being. Why is it every single time I get an email from this person, I go, oh no, I'm not going to respond to that right now. Nope, not going to respond to that. There's probably certain clients in my past where I would get a text from them and it would be an audio message and I would be like, not doing that today. Not doing that today. There are people who have left the orbit of NLU that Alan and I were like, this person definitely hates us. Definitely hates us. They do not like us very much. They hate the show. They can't stand what we're about. You know, if you fast forward 6 months, a year, 2 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and you have a conversation with this person behind the scenes, you realize that they didn't necessarily have anything against us. I believe this is what happens. We run from the things that remind us that we're jeffing. We run from feedback that reminds us that we're not doing what we said we were going to do. So imagine this, and maybe this has happened to you as a listener, I don't know. You find NLU, and you start tracking your habits, and you're showing up for yourself, and you're keeping the small promises to yourself, and then something happens in your life, and you stop tracking your habits, you stop keeping the small promises to yourself, you stop working on self-improvement. How challenging is it going to be for you to listen to us every single day, giving you feedback and talking about deep topics and concepts when you're not keeping the promises to yourself? You're probably subconsciously going to villainize us a little bit, and you're going to run away from us. Why? Because when you listen to an episode that we produce, it's going to be a mirror for you, and maybe your lack of progression, maybe your lack of commitment, maybe your lack of consistency. Think about that on the other end. Where is that happening to you? We have seen that so often where somebody will be so tight in this group, in the NLU family, and they'll disappear for a while, and they won't respond to our messages. They just ghost us. Something happens. We reconnect with this person and we realize, oh, you were just like really struggling behind the scenes, and listening to the show maybe was too overwhelming, or you were working on something else. Maybe you were working on your own self-care. That's the point in this episode. I want you to think about, where are you running from feedback that is reminding you that you're not doing what you said you were going to do, and where can people be doing that for you as well? I know as a podcast coach, I have so many people who have given me verbal yeses. Yes, I want to work with you as a coach, and I want to work with Next Level Podcast Solutions. Or, yes, I'm going to start my podcast in the very near future. Then they just ghost me. And for a long time in the beginning, I would take that so personally. Like, oh, this person doesn't like me. I must have said the wrong thing. I don't know. Maybe they don't like something I said on the call. Now I realize that oftentimes they're scared to start. They're overwhelmed. They're trying to figure out stuff behind the scenes. And every time they look at me or they talk to me or they have a conversation with me, it's even more overwhelming because they're getting that feeling of, oh, I know I should have done this already. Oh, I know I should have done this. And here's the other thing. It's like that text message that you say, I'll respond to tomorrow, and you don't respond to it tomorrow. You say, I'll get to it today. I'm not going to get to it today. I'll get to it tomorrow. A week, 2 weeks later, how much harder is it to respond to that message? Because you know that there's some negativity associated with that message because you're out here jeffing. So that's our point. Our goal in today's episode is to take a look at it from where are you doing it? And if you're a dream chaser and maybe you're a small business owner or an entrepreneur, where are people doing that to you also?
I have two stories that I thought of while Kev was talking that I think are really powerful illuminators of human nature when it comes to avoiding feedback when it's in an area of insecurity. The first one, I'm in Newport, Rhode Island. This is many, many moons ago. I'm in my mid-20s, and I had a beautiful girlfriend back then. Her name was Courtney. And we were walking on, if you've ever been to Newport, Rhode Island, it is gorgeous. And we're walking on the, if you've ever done, have you ever seen the mansions?
Of course, the cliff walk, of course.
Cliff walk, that's what it is. So doing the cliff walk. And we're with a group of friends, and there's one of my friends, I'll keep it anonymous, of course, was really close with my girlfriend Courtney at the time. And Courtney's in like a hoodie, like one of those beach hoodies. And it's really, really hot. It's a hot summer day. And my ex-girlfriend, Courtney, is beautiful, just very, very beautiful woman. And she was in great shape, worked out, all of that. And this other person that was walking with her was not in great shape, didn't really exercise, wasn't that into fitness. And I'll never forget it for as long as I live. Courtney took off her hoodie and was in a bathing suit. It's a hot summer day. She's in a bathing suit and she looks great. And it was awesome. This person who was walking next to her, enjoying herself, having a conversation, her intimate partner was behind me, and she walked over to him and essentially said, I can't believe, like, why does she always got to take off her sweatshirt? And I remember, like, what? It's like summer. It's like really hot. Like, she shouldn't have been in a hoodie, period, anyway, right? At the end of the day, I know what it was. This person felt insecure around the beauty of my girlfriend at the time. And unfortunately, and I now understand this, I never understood it back then, but like that is probably something that people internalize of like, oh, I must not be likable, or people don't like me, or I'm too much for people. I've heard clients tell me that all the time. Oh, I'm too much for people. You're not too much for me. You're good. One of my other clients told me, one of the reasons I love working with you is that I get to actually be myself. You're not insecure about my greatness. And she really meant it. And I'm like, not even a little bit. I want to amplify it. I want to dial it up. Okay, so that's the first story. Avoiding mirrors. Second story is about me and when I was avoiding my mirrors. So I'm in my mid-20s. I'm working for a company called Cognex. And I'm in I wouldn't say necessarily a dark phase. I'm focused on corporate. I'm focused on making as much money as possible. I'm doing a good job at my job, but I'm not doing fitness. I just was on the struggle bus. The tail end of college, I had a really good run in fitness, and I really let it go at this point. And I knew it. I was drinking too much and too often. So I'm at the movies, and I think this is like 2013, 2014, 2015, I forget when. And I'm in Natick, so Natick, Massachusetts, and there's this big IMAX movie theater in Natick, Massachusetts. Jordan's Furniture. I don't know if it's still there. I think it is. And I'm out to dinner with one of my friends, and we went to the movies. I love movies, always have. And I had Mountain Moe's is what I used to call it. I had Mountain Dew and Captain Morgan in my cup at the movie theater. Okay. It's a different version of Alan, for sure, which is interesting in and of itself. And we're watching Superman. Do you know the name of that actor by any chance? The Superman dude?
Henry Cavill?
That guy. Yeah.
Stud.
Just the stud, right? And for the men out there listening, let's just say when you're letting yourself down in fitness, when you watch that movie, it's a little bit of a mirror. So I'm drinking, and it's late at night, and I've been just eating like crap and drinking and not taking fitness seriously, not going to the gym, letting myself down.
I absolutely love Book Club. It is my favorite way to start the weekend. We talk about the chapter that we read previously, and it made a big difference in my life and the beginning of my journey of self-development. And it is a very kind and welcoming community, and it's a great space where if you want to just sit and listen, you're able to, but there's also a lot of space for discussion and questions. I have nothing but good things to say about book club.
There's that scene, and I usually will pull this up whenever I tell this story. I told it in book club this weekend. I pulled up there's a scene where he gets out of the water as Superman. You know which scene I'm talking about? I think I've shown you the photo. Yeah. And his physique is awesome, right? He just has a great physique. Just a stud. And I was so upset after that scene that I pretended I had to go to the bathroom. And I got up from my friend and I said, I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be back. He's like, it's right in the middle of the movie. Like, can it wait? No, can't wait. I go into the bathroom and I'm buzzed at this point, but kind of like almost like, you know when you've been drinking and it's like you kind of feel like crap to where it's almost like you're hungover before the next morning. It's like a hangover in the evening.
No.
Okay. Never mind.
No.
It's like a depressing buzz, not like a good one. Not like a fun, loving, playful drunk. It was like a depressing one. So I'm in the bathroom and I'm looking in the mirror, literally, and I'm just looking at that scene that I just saw of that guy on screen and his physique, and I'm looking at mine. And I'm looking at how much I let it go. I let my fitness go for so many years. And I literally remember this. I actually cried. I like wept by myself. I threw out the alcohol. I dumped the alcohol and I threw it out in the trash. And I can't tell you exactly what I did after that, but I do know I started going to the gym again. I do know that. And so there's that quote, when the pain is great enough, you will change. It's called threshold. Scientists call it threshold. Once you get past a certain threshold of just not tolerating your own crap anymore, you eventually change. And usually it's catalyzed by some story like what I just told you, or who knows, maybe that person who was frustrated that Courtney took off her sweatshirt, maybe she went to the gym after that. I don't know. But what I do know is that all of us, when we're insecure about something, it actually increases the avoidance tendency. It doesn't decrease it until the pain gets great enough. And then we look at the feedback all at once. And if you've ever left NLU and then come back, or you've ever had friends ghost you randomly, I have one team member in particular who's like, I don't understand. Like, my friends are being weird. They're unkind. They're ghosting me. They're not answering me. They're talking behind my back. I'm like, you're just growing.
Yeah.
You're just growing. You moved away. You're amazing. Like, you're shining bright, and they can't handle it. And they will come around, and not guaranteed, but some of them will. And I've had people that at the beginning of this journey were like wondering who I was and making fun of me, and you're a podcaster now, and you're a bodybuilder now, and who are you, and all this stuff. and many of them have come around. Many of them have said, like, I'm sorry for being a dick. I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Like, I think eventually they'll come around, and if they don't, they don't. But it has more to do with them than it does with you. If you were in great shape, Kev, and I wasn't, and I like didn't like you, it had more to do with me than with you. And I tried really hard never to let my junk get on anybody, so I don't think that would have happened. You were in great shape back then, and I wasn't. But like, I think that's all it is. And if our listeners could just get that, if we could all just get that, it has to do with them, not you. It's not the CPA's fault that we avoid her emails. It's the fact that we don't want to climb the mountain of 2021 taxes yet, right? And just don't internalize that anymore. And hopefully we can all learn that.
I was talking to a client. I don't know if it was a client or a client was talking about a client, but I'm not certain. But they were talking about how this person is in the dental industry and how there is such a negative association to the dental industry and dentists in general because people are jeffing on that. And it's like that feedback, and everybody's miserable. I won't say everybody, but from this person's experience, so many people were miserable when they go to the dentist, and it makes the dentist feel like garbage because they don't feel like anybody likes them. And it's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, and the suicide rates of dentists are very, very high too.
Really?
It's fascinating. Yeah, statistically speaking, yeah. Even though they're very, very statistically successful, that's a whole other rabbit hole. But at the end of the day, I think there's something to this. Is any industry that's a big mirror. I mean, we all understand that Netflix is going to do better than Next Level University, right? I mean, one of them is fun and playful. The other one is a pretty hefty mirror.
The other one is Netflix.
Kevin bragging about how many habits he tracks per day, and Yeah, I'm kidding.
Kind of a big deal in the industry.
Kind of a big deal. It's whatever. It's no big deal.
That's so interesting that it's interesting, Alan, because you've had so many stories of you like drinking and then having a breakthrough and then stopping drinking. That's very interesting. That's the thing for you is like you have so much pain of quote unquote failure associated with that. I talked in the last episode or in Wednesday's episode how there may have been marijuana involved in one of my conversations. And you know why? For a while it was I can't accomplish my goals and partake in marijuana in any stretch of the imagination. The pain, the failure I had associated with that is I was literally smoking weed every day at like 11 o'clock in the morning as an entrepreneur thinking I was going to win. Then I didn't at all for, I don't know how many years. It was like, honestly, it was years. And then it was, okay, what do I want my life to look like? Is that something that I do want in my life in some way, shape, or form? Because I was like, the reason I attached it to failure is because I was overusing it. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. It's interesting how that perspective, and I also wanted to make sure that I touched on that because I know I don't want somebody to go back in an old episode and hear me say, oh my goodness, I was smoking weed every day and now I'm never going to do it again, because that wouldn't be accurate. I want to make sure that I'm a man of my word and authentic. So on the weekends, I will occasionally partake in
the devil's lettuce,
in a marijuana cigarette.
I'm just joking. in a marijuana cigarette. At the end of the day, we evolve.
Yeah.
You don't have to, that's the interesting thing about being a podcaster is, well, you said, but it's, yeah.
But even that was uncomfortable for me to say because I don't want it to, it reminds me of how I used to talk about it before, probably. And the last thing I want is somebody to take it out of context, be like, oh, Kevin lied on this episode. Like that's, you and I have fear of that for sure. I mean, having so many episodes recorded and so many of my words recorded every single day, it's like, oh, I really hope that doesn't come back to be a negative thing in the future, That's
common. That's a common thing.
Understandable.
That's it, because you don't, the wrong thing taken out of context, it's a blip in time on a massive journey. Yeah, Kev, you're not alone in that.
No,
I think people in any industry that has public front-facing recorded stuff probably feel that way. Yeah. I often think to myself, like, this is a whole nother rabbit hole. We'll go after this, I promise.
$1 but like, in the jar. $1 in the jar.
Well, yeah, there it is. Another $1. Think about the villains in movies. Those are just actors, but everyone's associating them as a villain. It's like, I think about that all the time. It's like, I don't want to be the guy
from Titanic.
Oh, he's the worst.
But he did a great job.
Yeah, he's probably not. Yeah, he's probably a great guy.
He
might be terrible also. Can you be that good at being a dick and not be a dick? No. I've also studied a lot of acting too. I had a close acting friend that I went to LA with, but and that's a whole nother thing, Kev, that we can get into at another time. But all the archetypes and stuff that I've studied back in the acting days, you and I talk about that stuff on the Hyperconscious podcast and NLU all the time because we're talking about different types of people and different archetypes, different characters, villains, victims, heroes, and guides. And so I've been slowly weaving my love of movies into this podcast for the last 5.5 years, and I think I'm done hiding it. I'm kidding.
I'm all for it. I do that with rap. I do it with UFC, mixed martial arts, combat
You got to do
sports.
it, man.
Yeah. All right, so we got to go. Throw $1 in the jar. Next Level Nation, we have 2 courses on our website. If you are struggling financially, we have one that is completely free. And again, we want to over-deliver. That's our goal. It's like an hour and a half. It's a very in-depth course, Alan and I in the studio. We also have a course, I believe is $47, which is our Next Level Live 2022. So it's 4 speakers. It's a whole day event. It's a ton of content, super valuable. Alan, myself, Dr. Tara McCarthy, and Tori Aletto, all of our speeches as well as the Q&A. Please download it if you are interested, and maybe you couldn't get into group coaching. You don't want to do one-on-one coaching. Whatever. It's there for you.
Don't want to do one-on-one coaching.
Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you're not ready. I don't ever want to push somebody to where they're not ready. That's one of my goals is always, I want you to land where you should.
Exactly. That's why we have so many different services at NLU.
100%.
Speaking of that, I was thinking to myself earlier, I always have my best thoughts in the shower, which, by the way, apparently is like a thing because that's when you are alone in solitude and just focused.
We're going to need you to buy the course because that water bill is probably getting up there because Alan does his meditating. He does his stretching in the shower. He's doing his best thinking. We're probably writing his book in the shower.
I do. No, I can't because the laptop doesn't go in there. It's not waterproof yet. So I was thinking about this in the shower earlier. I was like, why would someone come to book club? Because I was listening to Switch on Audible while in the shower, believe it or not.
Of course.
And we're on chapter 5, which is Find the Feeling. And I was like, why would someone come? Because our plugs, we need to figure out, like, okay, why should you come to this? This is it. This is what I came up with. It'll get you to read more often. Fair. I think everybody wants to read more than they do. I really do. They all kind of know, speaking of this episode, avoiding feedback, like, you all know you should be reading more, including myself.
Same.
You know, I've also been reading a lot lately, but all of us should be reading every single day. We all kind of know that at NLU. And if you're not, again, it is what it is. But I feel like everyone who's into personal development kind of understands that reading is a really important part of that. Book club is going to help you be a part of a community that just gets you to read more consistently. And I think that you should join. So there's going to be a link in the show notes to register. And we have, I think, 48 members right now in the private WhatsApp group as well. You don't have to join that if you don't want to, but register at the link and you can keep your camera off, you can keep your mic off, you can not participate, you can just listen in, or you can be you can join the discussion as much as you want. It's totally up to you.
Imagine buying a book and not having to dust it off in 6 months when you want to read it. That's a good way to look at it. Because again, I'm guilty of that too. That's why I buy audiobooks. No dust.
Right.
No dust.
Well,
Next,
hey, all these books back here, man.
You've read them all though. That's the thing.
I have, but mostly listened.
I have some books on my shelf over here. I haven't read a single one of them. Straight up.
Shame.
No, I read the 3-minute rule, but I actually think I listened to it. Okay. Next Level Nation, tomorrow for episode number 1118, The Importance of Persistent Patience. That is a tough title. As always, we love you, appreciate you, grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans, we have family. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.